London main market, Eastinco Mining, due to have a name change to Aterian Plc, came to the London markets just recently, on Monday to be precise, raising a small amount of money in the process. It's focused in on what it says is ethical exploration, development and trading of critical and strategic minerals, mostly in Rwanda, or it's just about to bring on some more projects in from Morocco onto its books. The chairman is Charles Bray. He holds 3.5% the stock. He joins us now on the line from London. Charles, good to talk to you. Thanks indeed. Interesting time to list a company in the current economic backdrop. But first of all, let's talk about that. How was the listing?
The listing was successful. I mean, we raised a small amount of money, which was our intention. The most important thing was to get to the LSE and to appeal to a broader set of institutions and investors, which we've achieved.
We should say that we've introduced this interview as Eastinco Mining, but I know that the name change is in the process to Aterian Plc. So let's ask you what Aterian Plc has. I said you got strategic minerals. Explain more about what it is you are trying to achieve.
Yes, we're trying to build a portfolio of strategic and critical minerals based primarily out of African assets. So we have a Rwandan-based subsidiary company that is dealing with coltan, which is tantalum, niobium, as well as tin and tungsten. We also have a Moroccan acquisition, which we recently made, and that's part of the rationale for the listing. We acquired 15 different licenses from Elemental Altus, the royalty company, and those are primarily based on copper, but as well have some good indications of tin, as well as lead, silver, and gold. So acquiring that many large assets meant that we were going to have to appeal to a much larger institutional base. And so that justified the move and also describes a bit about what our asset base is. Going forward, we're hoping that critical and strategic minerals will include the likes of tungsten, nickel, and to build a portfolio that's really geared towards this move from a carbon-based society to one that's renewable and a greener economy.
As you say, I guess the listing was really just a question of making sure you've got a good solid foothold here in the London markets, where of course so many mining companies are. But you only raised what, £850,000 from the listing, which was very small, a very modest amount of money. Is that earmarked, or is it just a question of just raising a little bit just to get that foothold?
I think to answer your question, the answer is both. That is earmarked over the next 18 months to primarily work with some exploration work we have in Morocco on the copper assets. As I said, we have 15 different copper licenses, 2 of which we are excited about getting to work in terms of doing some groundwork, but as well ultimately getting some drilling work done so we can discover what's there and see if we can prove up these resources.
Of all of the assets that you have, or the projects that you have underway, which ones are the most advanced? Are you interested in pushing forward the most advanced and getting those underway quickly, or are you going to spread your efforts across the entire spectrum of projects you've got underway?
No, there's 3 that we've earmarked and designated as fairly advanced. 2 copper assets in Morocco, one which is very far advanced, which is Agdes, when we're hoping to begin drilling on that next year. There's another one in Morocco we'll be announcing some information data on shortly. And then as well in the south of Rwanda, we have a significant license area that has a significant pegmatite or series of pegmatite formations on it. Those are definitely indicating that there's some tantalum, but as well, we're hopeful that they'll indicate that there's some lithium. But we need to get the drilling underway and proceed from there.
And of course, drilling costs a fair bit of money. Getting to wherever you need to get to the next stage is obviously going to take some cash burn. What's the cash
Yeah.
situation looking like at the moment? And as I say, because you've
Yeah.
raised this modest amount of money, it doesn't change your financials very much.
No, it doesn't, but we are relatively lean. We're going to be bringing on a couple new management team members shortly. However, we have a relatively lean management expense, and we're focused on deploying that capital on the exploration efforts. Now, with that relatively small amount, as well as a working capital facility that's been provided to the company, we feel fairly confident that we can indicate and improve the valuation of the company. Given 15 different copper licenses, we feel that on its own, and the way that these have been managed and dealt with and explored to date by the former Altus strategies, that it means that with a relatively small amount of work, we can let's say, develop a bit of asset value that will cause some share price appreciation, that will allow us to then make the decision whether to proceed with additional equity capital being raised, or more likely, at least at this point in our thinking, to allow for farm-ins and joint ventures with larger sorts of entities who recognize the scale and the value of these Moroccan assets.
I talk to a lot of small cap CEOs and chairmen such as yourself, and we talk a lot about the project processes and so forth. But I'm interested, if I can, to take a little bit of a diversion away from what I would normally talk about, because I'm interested in the fact you're developing a metals trading business in Rwanda, and you've applied to join the International Tin Supply Chain Initiative. This is the first time I've come across this. Explain a bit more about that, because that does set you apart to some degree from the normal run-of-the-mill mining and exploration company.
Yeah, the ITSC program is very important, in particular in Central Africa, where there's been a bit of a history of some traceability issues. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to engage with all of the consortium type entities down there that allow for best practice, that allow for good ESG practice. And so we're hopeful that with engaging with ITSC, that will allow us to undertake and coordinate our due diligence practices with a larger group of people. In particular, in Rwanda, if you want to import, export, trade these metals, you need to be a member of something like ITSC. And right now, that is the preeminent entity or body that's managing and supporting traceability amongst its members. So for us, it's absolutely critical, because we do plan to expand the asset mix, and we're looking at some rare earth minerals, in particular in Rwanda, just as byproducts from our existing operations. It's nothing new. And so as part of that, we want to be able to assure ultimately the people who we're supplying these metals to that the source of those metals is one that is ethical, and one that they can rely on as being traceable, so that they can ultimately let their clients and customers know that the minerals and metals were secured using best practice.
Yeah, let me just wrap things up and just sort of take us into the final home straight and ask about the immediate in tray and what you are doing now, which will give you clarity and some sort of achievement of early milestones.
Yeah, in terms of early milestones, that's a really good question. What we're really hoping is that a lot of the data we'll be producing, because over the past year, while we've been doing this acquisition, we have been working very closely with Altus to continue the operational sides, the exploration work. We're very hopeful and expect that we'll release some information that indicates that these projects, in particular Morocco, are scale, and have some good mineral potential, in particular, as I said before, with copper. We think that will come about from ground survey work, some geological work, including some drilling. And when I say drilling, it's not extensive, expansive drilling, as you already indicated with our capital It's going to have to be very focused and allowing us to inform the market more about what's potentially there. And we think we can do that. We think that over the next 6 months, we'll be able to provide the market with a significant amount of news flow in terms of the data on those two particular projects in Morocco, but as well on that project in the south of Rwanda, which is definitely indicating, as I said before, coltan, but hopefully as well lithium.
Well, look, Charles, we hope to hear more as you develop the progress at the company, and congratulations on the listing on Monday in these difficult conditions. It's a pleasure to be able to catch up with you. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's Charles Bray. He's chairman of Eastinco Mining, which is in the process of a name change following the listing here on the main market on Monday. It will be called Aterian Plc very shortly. For more videos from us here at IGTV, join us on Twitter at IGCom, Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube channel.